Are you living and working in Germany? Well, let me tell you something that nobody wants to think about, but everyone needs to be prepared for, and that is getting fired. Yes, it's a tough subject, but it's essential to know what steps to take if that unfortunate day ever comes. In this video, I'll share the crucial information you need to know in this situation. Everything from what happens to your residence permit and health insurance to your pay, bonuses, and all of those precious unused vacation days. Don't let the fear of the unknown hold you back as I talk about job loss in Germany and share exactly what to do if you get fired in Germany. In the world of employment, there are a few things that can go sour. First, there's the dreaded laid-off situation. It's when your employer no longer needs your services, possibly due to financial difficulties. You could also be put on Kurzarbeit, which is when your employer reduces your work hours because of financial strain. Then there's the harsh reality of getting fired. Usually, this doesn't happen without a good reason, except during the probation period. The probation period is a time when you're still being evaluated. It's during this period that you can be let go without needing a reason, but rest assured, you will typically receive written warnings before things escalate to that point. Of course, there are exceptions for serious misconduct. But here's the good news. Once you've successfully completed your probation period, your employer needs to give a valid reason to fire you. And if you find yourself disagreeing with the given reason, you have a window of 3 weeks to challenge it by filing an action for unfair dismissal. Notice period. When it's time to say goodbye to your job, there are a few things you should know about the notice period, even if you're still in your probation period. If you happen to get laid off, you're entitled to be paid until the notice period ends. During this period, your employer might keep you working or give you some time off. Now let's talk about the not so pleasant scenario of being fired for misconduct. In such cases, there may not be a notice period. But don't worry, there's a possibility of negotiating for something called severance pay or Abfindung. This is an amount your employer pays you to leave without any legal disputes. However, keep in mind that you usually need to sign a termination agreement, referred to as Aufhebungsvertrag, to receive this payment. Here's the interesting part. You can actually negotiate the amount of severance pay you receive. As a general rule, you can expect to receive 0.5 times your monthly income before taxes for each year of your employment. For example, if you worked for an employer for 5 years, your severance pay would be equivalent to 2.5 months of your income. To navigate this process effectively, it's wise to seek the guidance of a labor lawyer. They have the knowledge and expertise to help you negotiate a better severance package based on your specific circumstances. But going to a lawyer can be quite expensive. That is why I recommend that you get legal insurance. If you feel that your job might be in trouble, you should get this legal insurance as soon as possible, because most insurances have a waiting period of between 3 to 6 months before it becomes active. I have a detailed video on this topic here, and I'll also put links to my favorite legal insurances in the description below. Now, it's important to be aware that severance pay can impact your unemployment benefits. If the severance pay is substantial, you may lose out on the 3 months of unemployment benefits. In some cases, it might be more advantageous to decline severance pay and opt for unemployment benefits instead. Some employers can be complete tools. That is why you must think twice before signing a termination agreement suggested by your employer. If you sign it, you're not technically getting fired. Instead, you're agreeing to leave your job. But hold on, there are a few things you need to consider if you decide to sign that agreement. First, you lose the protection against dismissal or Kündigungsschutz. This means that you won't be able to sue your employer for firing you because you agreed to leave. Keep in mind that your employer wants you to sign the termination agreement because it's a safer option for them. On the brighter side, signing a termination agreement gives you an opportunity to negotiate better severance pay. Another thing to note is that there's no minimum notice period when you agree to leave. This can be beneficial if you've already secured another job and want to make a swift transition. However, it's important to be aware that signing the termination agreement can have implications on your unemployment benefits. Depending on the terms outlined in the agreement, you may risk losing the 3 months of unemployment benefits. It's crucial to understand how this could impact your financial situation before making a decision. Because when you decide to sign a termination agreement, you're essentially striking a deal with your employer. They're willing to offer you more money, and in return, they're hoping to avoid potential complications. Remember, you have the right to accept, refuse, or negotiate this deal. Your employer cannot force you to sign a termination agreement. And if you're unsure about what to do, always seek legal assistance. If you're getting value from this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. What to do before you stop working? There are a few important things you should do before you stop working. Make sure to register as a job seeker at the Agentur for Arbeit. You can do this either 3 months before your last day of work or within 3 days after learning that you will be unemployed. It's crucial because it affects the amount of unemployment benefits that you can receive. When you know your last day of work, make sure to register as unemployed at the Agentur for Arbeit. This step is necessary to access unemployment benefits, so remember to do this within the last 3 months of your work. It's also important to inform your health insurance provider when you lose your job. Your coverage generally remains the same, but there might be changes to the price. If you have private health insurance, you may need to consider switching to public health insurance, depending on your insurance plan. If you have a work visa or a blue card, you must also inform the Ausländerbehörde about your unemployment status. It's best to do this as soon as you know that you will be unemployed, and make sure not to wait more than 2 or 3 weeks. To inform the Ausländerbehörde, you need to write a letter in German with your relevant information and include a copy of your termination notice. They will reply to you within 4 to 6 weeks and provide you with a time frame of 3 to 12 months to find a job depending on the specific Ausländerbehörde. What happens to your pay and bonuses when you get fired? Until your last day of work, which is at the end of the notice period, your employer is legally obliged to pay you your full salary even if they don't require you to work. So rest assured, you will receive your complete pay during this time. If your employer grants performance bonuses, you should still receive that bonus even if you leave the company. The amount may be adjusted based on the time you spend working during the bonus period. For example, if you were supposed to receive a performance bonus annually but leave in November, you should receive at least 90% of the promised bonus. What about unused vacation days? Well, usually you are allowed to take your unused vacation days during your notice period. However, there are cases where your employer may choose to compensate you for those unused vacation days by making a payment to you. It's important to note that during your notice period, if you fall ill, you can still take sick leave as needed, and your entitlement to sick leave remains as usual during this time. What about health insurance and job loss? Well, as I mentioned, if you have public health insurance, there's a good news for you. It can become cheaper or even free while still providing the same coverage. In case you receive unemployment benefits, the Agentur for Arbeit takes care of your health insurance expenses, so you're covered for free. In case you don't receive unemployment benefits, you'll usually need to pay around 210 euros per month. However, there is a possibility that you can be covered for free if your spouse is working. Now let's consider private health insurance. If you have private health insurance, it may become more expensive because your employer will no longer contribute half of the cost. However, the coverage will remain the same. If you receive unemployment benefits, you'll typically need to switch to public health insurance, which will be covered by the Agentur for Arbeit. In situations where you don't receive unemployment benefits, you can continue with your private health insurance. However, keep in mind that your employer will no longer contribute their share. For instance, if your private health insurance costs 500 euros per month and your employer used to pay 250 euros while you pay 250 euros, after losing your job, you will be responsible for the full 500 euros before starting a new job. When you're ready to start a new job, you will need permission from the Ausländerbehörde depending on how long you have held your residence permit. Check your Zusatzblatt. If your residence permit is tied to your employer, you'll need to apply for a new work visa or blue card, which can take a few months. However, if your residence permit is not connected to your employer, you're not required to seek permission from the Ausländerbehörde to start a new job. Additionally, if you have had your blue card for more than 21 months, you might also not need the Ausländerbehörde permission in that case too. Remember, if you're unable to find a job within 3 to 12 months, your residence permit will expire and you will need to leave Germany. But don't worry, there are a few legal options to extend your stay. Let me know in the comments if you want me to make a video on them. For people with a spouse and children on family reunion visa, their stay in Germany is connected to your residence permit. So as long as you can stay in Germany, they can stay too. If your spouse finds employment, there is an exciting opportunity to switch roles, meaning that your spouse can apply for a work visa, freelancer visa, or a blue card while you can obtain a family reunion visa. This way, both of you can continue enjoying your time together in Germany. Navigating the ups and downs of employment can be difficult, especially as an international in Germany. And sometimes you need help to face any situation head on. That is why it's absolutely essential to get professional help, which I discuss in this video. So thanks for watching, bleib gesund, and I'll see you in this video.